realizing they weren't the leaks.
Right.
And it's just absolutely ridiculous. So anyway, I shouldn't be saying this stuff. That some stuff needs to be kept in house, but definitely that Twitter person definitely hit on something, a little nerve right now.
As a great philosopher once said, paranoia will destroy you.
Yeah, it absolutely will. It's not healthy. It's not a healthy thing to be paranoid about everything and to not trust your inner circle and to. It's going to be a very short career. I mean, it's just there's so many other stresses that he's got about this job that he should worry about than me, and the other thing that I just don't get is that why. And this again is just probably talking too much, but God knows I do it.
Hadn't noticed.
Yeah, but I just don't understand why new GMs or coaches don't try to develop that relationship with the writers. I mean, and not just me. I'm not the only one that covers this team. It's just you think that if you think that I have an influence on this town, that you want to sit there and at least have a relationship with that person so that person understands what you're doing. And I've told this story before, and again, it's too much, but it's like when he claimed Bitetto off waivers and you send him a text, hey, can you give me a scouting report on the guy? Can you tell me why you did this? And if you don't get a response, now you're allowing me license to just say what I think.
Well,
where the other way, you're just at least saying, look, this is why I did it. I really like this guy for this reason. That's the way it should be. But I think, I don't know if it's the Patriots fan in him that just thinks everything should be just, but it's not going to work. I mean, It's not. So,
timely question from our friend Bill, who comes out to the live shows. Fenton's rush to trade
no
players.
more. No, please, let's not.
Okay,
get it done.
Sorry, Bill. Sorry, Bill.
Time out. Fenton stuff. I'm already saying too much.
He's using his one timeout from Alec. Hypothetical Kaprizov question, Russo's favorite. Wondering if Kaprizov was let out of his contract and signed with the Wild, would be eligible for Iowa in the AHL playoffs.
It's just really funny. I mean, it's like I've never been more excited for a Kaprizov question. That's what we got to. But I mean, to get back to whatever that question was, it's like, look, I am not trying to create this issue. Like the Fenton stuff. I'm just trying to tell you what's going on. That type of stuff. So,
by the way, I appreciate you supplying sound effects for the show, too. Drumming on the tabletop, smacking your coffee
I need
cup.
a new coffee.
Apparently. We'll do a couple more minutes. We'll let you get your coffee.
So, Kaprizov, I mean, yeah, absolutely. Let me just think that through real quick. Would he be eligible for Iowa? He would have had to been on Iowa's clear day list, which I know they don't call it that. First of all, he's not going to come here to play for Iowa. If the Wild ever put him in Des Moines, he'll be back in Siberia before he's.
I think that answers the question.
But to answer your question, I don't think he could. I mean, that was the whole thing with getting Donato Cunnin and Greenway down on their roster pre-trade deadline, is that you have to make sure that they're on their what used to be called their clear day list after the trade deadline to be eligible for the AHL playoffs. So I don't think now if the Wild were in the playoffs, he absolutely would be eligible because he's on their reserve list, but not Iowa.
A couple more questions. We're not going to get to many of these questions because Michael had his rants, and we value his rants, and that's what the show's about. From Adam Jones, bring back the North Stars? No. From Kyler Vosforet, assuming Fenton trades Zucker and Fenton's propensity for hockey trades, would you be mad at Zucker for Kessel?
I mean, yeah. I think you got to go bigger for that. I mean, Kessel's up there in age now. I don't know. I mean, maybe it's just my own feeling on whether or not they should go after Kessel, but I just think, one thing I will say is I think Fenton thinks too much of hockey trades where he doesn't think about other periphery pieces. And, I just think that if you're going to trade guys like Spurgeon, Zucker, I mean, my issue with the other trades with Fiala and Nino is I just don't get the whole one-for-one thing. I mean, I just don't get it. The goal is to actually pillage the other team, not to sit there and this is a fair hockey deal. And not to again piss off Paul, but that Fiala for Granlund trade was not a fair hockey deal. Okay, frankly, from what I'm told is that the Wild almost gave up more and almost actually. Retain salary in that type of deal, and which is insane to think about. And so, maybe the whole one-for-one thing is like I'm getting tired of. But I just think if you're going to take a young 27-year-old like Zucker, with the speed that he has, and being drafted 4 years after Kessel. I just think you got to get more.
Let's do one more.
But I mean, production-wise, I guess it really depends is where this management group thinks Kessel's ceiling still is, because I just don't think that he's a 40-50 goal guy anymore. Maybe I'm totally wrong and just playing off what I see from this postseason, which was disappointing for them.
We're going to try to keep our studio shows around half an hour in the off season, so we're not going to get to a lot of the Twitter questions. We do appreciate them. We hope to have a live venue announced soon where you can come out and ask them face to face.
Maybe I should go through Twitter and see if anything I like.
You should. From Bert Carter, any hot buyout rumors around the league and subsequent interest by the Wild?
Not that I know of. I mean, Victor Rask was going to be bought out, according to sources.
From Artie Jones, does Zucker potentially have more or less value now than he did at the trade deadline?
I mean, you would think more, because now theoretically, Paul could talk to all the non-playoff teams, where before the non-playoff teams probably had very little interest in Zucker.
All right, you got any questions there you want to answer?
I'm just kind of breezing through here.
I'll ask one more while you're waiting. From Zach Spicer, what hot take from the Twitter GMs has made you roll your eyes the hardest this offseason?
Probably Marner. I just don't. I mean, the reason why guys like Nylander and Kapanen are going to be available is because they are not going to let Marner go. Marner is the heartbeat of that team. I mean, we all talk about Tavares and Matthews. Who was blocking the shots, the last two shots against the Bruins the other night? I mean, that kid, he's unbelievable. And Kyle Dubas is one of the smartest young people I've ever met in the game. He's not dumb. They're going to get Marner done, and they're going to get Matthews done, or they got Matthews done, and then and that is going to probably lead to either Kapanen or Nylander being subject to either trade or even an offer sheet.
Michael needs coffee. We're going to let him go get coffee. Thanks for all the questions. Thanks
I got a final thought.
Oh, we got a final thought.
What do you think of the Masters?
It was fantastic.
Yeah,
it was fantastic. I've been doing a column since 2005. I've been at Star Tribune since 1990. And, I just think back the last 3 months. I got to cover a Super Bowl, spring training, first 2 rounds of the NCAA tournament, an NCAA tournament regional, a Final Four, and the Masters. I mean, I'm pretty damn lucky.
Yeah. I am fascinated about the Masters on the whole. What it showed me about this story is how, fans, Twitter, all of us, it's like you love the ceiling, the guy that's on top, then takes a complete plummet to the bottom and then bring it back up. It's just hilarious to me how everybody was just rooting for Tiger.
I know,
and just and forgetting all the just weirdness of the last decade.
And I probably got carried away with that a bit too. It's like I don't whitewash what he did, and I don't necessarily forgive or forget, but in the moment, to see somebody just drag their butt from being embarrassed and out of the game and not able to function with their back, not be able to swing a golf club, to winning the Masters against a great field, I mean, that's whatever you think of Tiger, that is an amazing story.
Yeah, no, it was absolutely unreal, and again, the fact that it was only 2 years ago that he was the thing on the bridge down, but the one with that the mug shot, and where he was at mentally and physically, and whatever was going on that night, and the fact that he has turned his career back to this point so quickly, it's pretty unreal. I do have one question. Captain Caveman asks, Russo, you're a pretty honest writer, and you have you have to be professional and cultivate, protect relationships. Are you willing to talk about examples when you've stepped on toes on a player who's addressed it with you? That is the job. I mean, I've told the story about Burnsy and Ray Whitney before, and having to kind of have that conversation with them that look, you're going to have to take the good with the bad, and that means if you're going to score an overtime winner one night, I'm going to be there and have to write it. But if you're going to turn the puck over for an overtime losing goal one night, I have to write that too, and it happened. It happened in a Wild game where I said that to Burns, and then the exact same thing happened where he screwed up, and I wrote it, and then all of a sudden a week later he scored one of his 5 overtime winners for the Wild, and he came up to me and goes, "All right, now I see what you mean." that is the job. But this whole job, like if fans knew the fires that you got to put out on an everyday basis, especially in my new role, because look, at The Athletic, which is probably what is stepping on people's toes, that I have license to be opinionated. That is what they want. I mean, our job is technically not to write the quote unquote game stories, although I do it very differently than every other person at our publication, because Wild fans have shown that they kind of still expect the post game stories from me. I remember earlier this season, I wrote the story about Parisi and Suter working with Neil Sheehy and how it's kind of helped them. And it was the game that Zucker had an unbelievable game. I think he might have even scored an overtime winner. And I wrote this story on Suter and Parisi as my postgame. And I left the arena at like 3:30 in the morning. I was so proud of it. And I wake up the next morning and it's like, yeah, great story. Where the F's the gamer? And I actually got up because I was so upset. I got up at after getting home at 4 a.m., I got up at 7 and wrote a game story because it's like everybody just yeah, where's the freaking story on the game? So, it just, every time you write something, and trust me, I mean, if it's the same thing, it's not just Paul. I mean, Chuck and Brent and I had it out on a gazillion things. I covered Mike Keenan, it was constant with him. So that's just the job, which is pretty stressful. And that's why I take it extremely seriously when fans sit there and call me a homer, or some jackass yesterday I saw said that all I write is what management wants me to write.
Oh my God.
Like, you have to be completely
stupid you have to be to
out
think
of
that.
touch to think if that I write what management writes. Like, you have to be completely moronic. So I have to go back and block that guy. That's my final thought.
Pretty little city built on a hillside. Music in the bars and fire in the sky. We went to the beach and it was covered in ice. And I used to call it home. So much coming out, there's